Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We have some brand new Civivi knives that dropped today along with a brand new Wii knife. First we have the brand new Civivi Placoid. This is a larger EDC knife and I like the overall aesthetics of this one. You got a versatile clip point blade, 14C 20-10 steel, and it should be a pretty slicey one at that. Plus it has that shredded G10. I think it's a really attractive material. You've probably seen it recently on my Civivi Tacticoric video. It just looks nice, especially on a budget knife. These coming at 54 bucks. It's a pretty large knife at 8.69 inches with a 3.67 inch blade, like I said earlier. Of course, you know, it's got that beautiful action, great flipping action, and a great thumb stud action also. My full review on this one is going to be coming in the next few days. I finished up testing and everything. It's already recorded. I just didn't want to do 3 back to back. If you're interested in this one and any of the knives you see in this video, they will all be linked down in the description. Next, I think it's going to be a popular one, the Civivi Hyper Pulse. It's another aluminum scaled knife for them. Nice and lightweight, nice and streamlined design. It's got a flipper and thumb studs, and they both work flawlessly. I like that drop point blade with that beautiful top swedge. I think it's very attractive looking. Should be a fairly versatile blade shape. That tip is just a hair above that pivot, but you can still use the tip rather easily. Plus, this one has a nice high, deep hollow grind that comes down nice and thin. So yeah, this one should be a great performer, and you have a stupid smooth action no matter what you're using. They dial the detent to perfection on at least mine. Deep carry reversible pocket clip. This is a great size for EDC, at least in my opinion. Coming in at 7.98 inches long with a 3.5 inch blade. And being that you have these aluminum scales with the lightning holes in them, plus you have no liners, this thing's a featherweight at 3 ounces. I think that is fantastic. So like I said, I think this would make a fantastic EDC knife. Definitely one I could recommend. My full review and testing will be dropping very soon, just like the Placoid. If you're interested in this one, it will be linked down in the description. But today we're going to be reviewing the Wii Knives Tyro. This is another Snecx tan design. If you don't know who Snecx Tan is, he's the one that designed the Vision R and the ever so popular Vision FG. And now the second knife that we have with his Superlock, which is right here. Very interesting locking system. We first saw it on the Vision R. And one improvement over the Vision R being that this one did not have any jimping and it was kind of slick. They now have jimping just like the Vision FG does. And instead of a full-on bar in the back like this one does, you have just a small little bar, so that's going to help bring down the weight some. This is a much more compact knife than the Vision R, coming in at 6.73 inches long with a 2.89 inch drop point blade of CPM 20 CV steel, hardened from 59 to 61 HRC. So this one should have really good edge retention and excellent corrosion resistance as well. It's a higher tip drop point, so it should be great at cutting stuff on a flat cutting surface, in-hand cuts in the straight edge portion, and piercing with that decently robust tip there. No jimping up top, but not something I really care about. And you have a good sharpening choil on this one because they brought the plunge grind all the way back right here, so you'll have all this sharpening light before it'll widen up at the heel. Now they're calling this a stone wash finish. I would call it maybe a light bead blasted tumbled finish, maybe. You can definitely see the stone wash in there, but it's not a raw stone wash. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, it is very slick to the touch, so that should aid in its sliceability. We have a blade hole for deployment. We'll talk about that later. This one comes with a flat saber grind that is ground pretty darn thin at around 17 thousandths behind the edge. And my particular knife came with a 21 degrees per side edge bevel. Now, let's see what it can do. The knife came with a fantastic edge out of box, and that's been the case for the last few Wii knives that I've tested. And even for a more compact blade, a under 3 inch blade, it's still going to be plenty capable enough. You have enough straight edge to do these type of cuts. You know, you don't probably want to do a super long cut because it is a higher tip drop point, so you may slide out of the cut because of the belly. But it is effortlessly gliding through this cardboard. I was kind of in shock on how easily it's cutting it. The finish isn't causing any kind of drag or anything. Didn't expect it to, not on this single wall cardboard, but good job. Now we're going to test the ergos. I'm really kind of pay attention to where that lock is, because I know for the Vision Vision R, I can kind of feel that. And so far so good. I mean, the handles are wide enough and thick enough that I'm able to get a lot of force into here. That little hump at the bottom didn't really bother me. All the way at the very end, last couple, I'm really pushing as hard as I can into the wood. I did start to feel that hump, but you know, I didn't think it was terrible or anything. And you know, do you plan on doing that type of stuff with your knife? And this poor knife, it is definitely plagued by the worst of the glue in this 1/2-inch sisal rope. I grabbed another hank of the sisal rope, and I was hoping that the first two that I had were the only two that had the hardened glue periodically throughout the rope, but unfortunately this one is riddled with it. I don't know. I got to keep using this stuff. I spent 120 bucks on a case of rope, so unfortunately I'll try to, you know, dodge it when I can, but when it's at the bottom, I can't really do anything about it. Now I'll give it to the knife. It powered through it like a champ. It didn't really feel like it slowed it down any, but hey, I could be wrong. This type of drop point is great at cutting on a flat cutting surface because you can use the belly to your advantage, and being this one has good edge geometry and a really sharp edge, it's performing really nicely, at least whenever you don't have hardened glue that you're running into. But yeah, it was comfortable pinch grip, nothing really poking or prodding me through my gloves or anything. You'd see me swapping up to the pointer finger grip every once in a while because it's got a sharp enough edge to do so. And yeah, I was happy with the way this one performed. No problems whatsoever. And you know, that's usually the case with the Wii knives I've tested in the last year. But yeah. Now, whenever we move on to the next portion, you're not going to really be able to use that tip to do a drag cut. It's just easier, and you don't have to think about it as much as to use that belly. You do the same exact thing, but you'll definitely notice how fast it's going through stuff. Even though I sped it up, nothing really gave it any problems. All these things that usually, you know, may cause some drag because of friction, not the case. And it literally blasted through this 12-ounce denim, no problem whatsoever. Now on to the deployment. So this one is a thumb hole opener. You have chamfer going around that hole. And I gotta admit, it's not my favorite means to deploy a knife like this. The best way I can deploy it by burying my thumb in there and flipping it out. The reason it's not the best at doing that is because you have this Superlock, because there's not really a detent per se. So you gotta just make sure you give it a good flick to get it out. I can't always reverse flick it. Now that I'm used to it, I can do it a little bit more reliably, but it wasn't as easy whenever I first got it. And of course, you could use that Superlock, pull it back to deploy the knife as well. It is super smooth, especially once you remove that tension from the lock. It's riding on cage ceramic ball bearings. I think it would have benefited from either a larger hole, you know, to about where this Wii symbol is, so it'd be easier to reverse flick and easier to do like a slow roll, even though, you know, I can still do it. Not terrible, but it could be better. Now let's move on to the handle area. So if you know anything about Snecx, he loves symmetry. So usually whatever you see on one side, you're going to see on the other side, which it's pretty much a carbon copy besides the pocket clip, but that is reversible. Now, I've always loved the way Wii does their finishing. I think they do like a bead blasted finish, or I guess that's what it is. Then they do a stone wash and an ano. So I have the blue stone washed anodization on mine. Then you have these triangles here. These are all lightning pockets to bring down the weight, I'm sure. Then you have the little lock window right there that will show that lock engaging in there. Once you open it, you saw it go into the channel. And if you watch me pull this back, yeah, I mean, it's a cool little touch. And then, as you see in there, they chamfered around all these holes in the scale, And you have a high satin finish, which gives it a nice contrast. And you have another hole here to coincide with this one, so it's symmetrical. Just like the placement of these two right here. And you have a nice chamfer going all the way around, flat scale titanium. And then you have a very small partial backspacer with an integrated lanyard loop there. And then chamfers on that titanium backspacer. Now, it says this thing is tip up or tip down, left or right hand to carry. So I'm guessing, I don't know if that's the case, but I'm guessing these can be put up here and you swap the screws. I don't know that for certain, but if you like carrying yours tipped down, you could always experiment with that. At least that's what it says on my spec sheet. But you do have a 3D milled titanium pocket clip with a good amount of ramp underneath there. And I was worried that my pants were going to fall into this triangle right there. But where they put it and where they put that retention hump right there, it goes in and out of my pockets nicely. It goes over the seam of my pants pretty easily. And it's not deep carry. That's what you have sticking out of the pocket. You got something to hold on to when pulling it out of the pocket. I didn't have any problems with my material getting bunched up in there. The lockup on my knife, when I say I cannot muscle any movement up or down, left or right, I mean very, very tight lockup. Love to see that. You have a pretty large stop pin right there that is being sandwiched between the lock and that stop pin, kind of like a compression lock does. Let's touch on the ergos real quick. I was worried because of these humps right here that it would be uncomfortable depending on where my hand landed, but it wasn't. I'm guessing it's the width. So these two fingers fit good there, and I can make that fit right there. So I was kind of worried about this one sitting on there, but they did a good job of softening all those tips, so nothing was uncomfortable as far as the scales go. I could feel the top of this pocket clip, but it wasn't really a hot spot. You know, for me to call it a hot spot, it needs to be leaving an indentation in my hand or something, and almost to where I have to go and stop, put on gloves or something. Now, I was worried about the top of this lock whenever I'm bearing down in the hammer grip. And I'll be honest, you know, I thought that was definitely going to be an issue, especially with those jumps up there. But it wasn't an issue at all. Maybe right toward the end when I was putting every bit of force I could into that wood, it left an indentation. It was a little uncomfortable, but, you know, are you going to be using this knife for that type of stuff? If so, you know, I don't know. You definitely need to consider that. But for me, I would call it good. Because you have this steel lock bar right here. Decent thickness stock, thick titanium, and a titanium pocket clip and backspacer. I was kind of worried that this thing was going to be, you know, 4.5 ounces. But all these lightning pockets and that hole right there, that's all helping to reduce the weight as much as they possibly could. And I don't know if you can see in there, but they've also chamfered inside those rectangles and all those holes. So they brought the weight down as much as they possibly could. And it's coming in at 3.84 ounces. I think that's definitely a manageable weight and did not bother me at all. Never felt cumbersome, never was banging around in the pocket or anything. Now for some size comparisons, we have the Ontario Rat 1 and 2, which is in the middle of those two. It's also in the middle of the Spyderco PM2 and Parrot 3, but has more cutting edges than the Parrot 3. And it's pretty much identical in length to the Benchmade Mini Grip and the Giant Mouse Ace Biblio. It's also a little smaller than the Wee Knives Hi-Fin and the Wee Mini Malice. All right, now for my nitpicks and complaints. Instead of this bead blasted stone wash, of course, I would have rathered a raw stone wash finish. It hides wear better, and it's not as susceptible to corrosion as a bead blast is. However, these very fine bead blasted stone wash finishes like this, I haven't had any issues with them corroding, so that's a very minor nitpick. And lastly, the blade hole. I wish it was either a bigger blade hole that came out to about right here, or I don't know, maybe thumb studs, just to make it a little bit easier to deploy. It's not terrible or anything, and now that I'm used to it, I can reliably do it. So, you know, it just depends on what you're looking for. All in all, what are my final thoughts? This one comes in at $229.50. You get the Superlock, which is a strong, fidgety lock and keeps your fingers out of the blade path when closing, something that I appreciate. I love Snecx designs. Of course, you know, I love the Vision R, the Vision FG, and now you have a more compact knife that has his Superlock. And of course, I think we did a phenomenal job replicating his custom design. The blade performed great. It was comfortable for pretty much all the stuff that I did. And I like the overall aesthetics. And you have a super, super smooth action. So, do I recommend the WE Knives Tyro? Of course. If you're okay with the price tag, I think it's a really nice knife. It checked pretty much all the boxes for me. Of course, I would have loved it to be a lower tip drop point, but you know, that's definitely not a deal breaker. So if you're interested in this one, it will be linked down in the description along with the 2 Civivi knives. They will be affiliate links, so if you want to help support what I do here in this channel, it helps me pay for that testing material. If not, no big deal. So that's going to do it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more in-depth knife and gear reviews. Let me know what you think about the WE Knives Tyro in the comments below. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below as well, and I'll do my best to get back with you. Until next time, remember, keep those blades sharp, smile more.